Hey guys, we're here for our first tier list video, from tiermaker.com. That's pretty exciting. Now, this tier list is going to be, the theme is going to be I'm going to be ranking all of my guitars. So that includes all the ones I've ever owned, and that includes ones that I've borrowed. So that's pretty exciting. Now, I stole this idea from another YouTuber called Clayne's World. Her and her husband actually did the exact same thing. And I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to do the same thing. So that's what I'm doing right now. And it's kind of interesting. I still own every guitar I've owned before. I still have them, except for two. I believe it was, two. This one right here I don't have, and this one right here I don't have. So my first two guitars I do not have, unfortunately. But I have all the others, and I also borrowed one guitar, so I don't have that either. But, I mean, there's a few guitars here. I'm not a collector. I know there's a bunch of musicians. I feel like if you're a musician, you get really into gear. And I was never like that. I never got into gear. I felt like that sort of distracted me from what I was trying to do, was trying to write music and, make songs and stuff. And I feel like, I mentioned this before, I feel like my brain isn't big enough, and I don't want to fill it with useless information that doesn't help me achieve my goal. And that's why I've ignored focusing on gear. I'm still a complete noob when it comes to gear, even though I've been playing guitar for 29 years, almost 30 years, 29 years. So, if someone were to strike up a conversation with me about guitar, they would probably think I was a giant noob. They probably wouldn't think I've been playing for 29 years, but I'm a noob. That's also the case for drums as well, by the way. I don't even know the size of my drums. That's how stupid I am. But I was able to take photos of all of my guitars. I laid them out on my bed. Some of the guitars, I put black t-shirts underneath so it would make them look cooler. Other guitars, the guitars were already dark, and so it looked better on just my comforter. And so let's get right into it. Now, 1995, I started playing guitar in 1995 when I was 12 years old. So it was shortly before my 13th birthday. Now, in 1995, my family ended up moving to Sudbury, Ontario. We lived in Cambridge, Ontario for 5 years, and then we moved to Sudbury, Ontario in the summer. And so school hadn't started yet, and I play hockey, and hockey hadn't started yet, so I didn't have any friends, and I was fairly lonely. I was pretty lonely, and I remember my best friend from Cambridge, where I moved from. He came up to visit me. He came up on the train, and he visited me, and he gave me the cassette tape for White Zombie, Astro Creep 2000. Now, there's some sort of extra title to that album that I can never remember because it's very long. Synthetic Delusions from the Electric Head, but there's more to it than that. That was the last part of it. Anyway, I remember listening to that. It was on cassette tape, and I remember listening to that, and at first it sounded like noise. Now, so by this time I was 12 years old. I wasn't even that interested in music in general. I mean, I would hear it when we were driving in the car, and the radio was on. And if I was in the car with my parents, like if we were driving to hockey or something like that, then we'd always be listening to 107.9 Energy 108 or Dance 98. Forget what the title was, but Energy 108 is what it was. It was dance music. And I enjoyed some of those songs, and I believe I bought... so Much Music would put out these compilation albums of dance music called like Dance Mix 92, Dance Mix 93, and they'd release one per year. I forget how many years it went on for, but I think I owned Dance Mix 93, and I remember always wanting Dance Mix 92 because it had a couple songs on it. But generally, I was not that interested in music, and so my friend gave me this cassette tape, White Zombie cassette tape. I started listening to it, noise at the beginning. I kept listening to it, and I started to become familiar with the patterns and the melodies. It's not even that strange of it's a little strange, but it's a very mainstream album. But even back then, when I was 12 years old, it sounded like noise. And then I got really into it. Even today, so I can't even listen to the album anymore. Except for I still like track 3. I don't know what it's called, and I also like the last track, which I think is track 11, "Blood, Milk, and Sky." I really like that song still. But I know they had a single. What was it? What was the song called? "More Human Than Human." I never liked that song. Even back then, I never liked that song. I don't know why. I just never liked it. But that is what inspired me to start playing guitar. And so I asked my dad if he could get me a guitar. He eventually said yes. And we went to a pawn shop downtown Sudbury. And there was a used, it was like a Strat copy. I don't know if it was actually a Fender. It might have been a Squier. I don't remember. But it looked similar to this, I guess. And there was also a small Fender amp. It was one of those fuzzy yellow ones. And so he got me both of those, and I started playing guitar. I don't remember what the guitar even felt like. I was so young and so inexperienced. I didn't really know. And I started playing guitar, and I remember I don't know if we got it at the pawn shop as well, but I also had this little pamphlet thing. It was several pages, and it showed you how to play "Ode to Joy." And so I remember trying that, and then my interest sort of dropped. I was also into alternative music, by the way, because that was mid-90s, so that was on the radio a lot, so I liked some of that. But my interest in guitar sort of went down because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to play the songs I wanted to play. I was sort of lost. And I think it was high school started, and I started walking to school with this guy in my neighborhood. I lived a little further away from the school than he did, and so I would walk to his house, and then we would walk to school together. He also played guitar, and I remember going to his house one day in the morning, and he showed me how to play "Glycerine" by Bush X. There's a bit of trivia there. Bush, the British band Bush, had to be referred to as Bush X in Canada for several years. I don't know how many years it was, but it was back in the 90s when they became famous, because there was a Canadian band named Bush from the 70s. They released an album in the 70s, and then my theory is apparently they wanted to re-release their 70s album when this British band became popular. My theory is because obviously if people are checking out the British band, maybe they might accidentally buy the 70s band album. And so the British Bush had to be referred to as Bush X in Canada. And then the dispute got, they fixed the dispute. So there was no dispute anymore. But I think that was even before 2000 set in. Anyway. And I started playing guitar again after he showed me how to play that. But I don't remember anything about this guitar really. So I'm just going to put it, I don't even know if I was going to put it in C, but because I can't remember, I think I'm going to put it in B. Now I do remember playing riffs on it when I was in bed, but this was before I started recording onto cassettes. So I really don't know. Actually, that's not true at all. I recorded on cassettes with this album. Yeah. So 1997, I moved to St. John's, Newfoundland. And once again, I didn't know anyone because we moved in the summer. And so I was lonely again. And so I bugged my dad, can you get me? So my grandma, my Dutch grandmother, she gave me her old stereo system, and it had a tape deck, and it had a left and right 1/4-inch input for microphones that you could record onto cassette tapes. And so I asked my dad, can you get me a microphone? And he ended up getting me one, like one of those $20 ones you get at Radio Shack. And I think I still have it. It doesn't work anymore, but I'm pretty sure I still have it. And so I started recording onto cassette tapes, and oh shit. I wanted to show it on camera. I got a literal bag of cassette tapes over. I'm looking at it right now. That has a bunch of riffs that I recorded on over the years from 1997 to like 2001. And I still do have some recordings. And I did record some songs with this guitar. Oh, yeah, but that's the thing. I didn't digitize them. So I was listening to it the other day because I need to like hook everything up to a mixer and then line it into my computer. It's really annoying because it's on cassette tape. Now, so there's no point to pausing this. I forgot. So I don't actually have recording to show you, but I will describe the recording, and that's probably as good, isn't it? No, I know it's not. But so I was out, I made friends, you know, I eventually made friends, and then my friends came back to my house one night, and there was one of the guys, he was very, very outgoing, very rambunctious, and these are Newfoundlanders, so, you know, they have their Newfie accents, and this one guy is Ryan, he noticed that I had a microphone, and I had a guitar, and so they got all interested, and I said, hey, we can record something. And so he had the microphone, and I turned my guitar on, and he was doing like this stand-up comedy routine he was like doing it word by word of this Newfoundlander stand-up comedian guy. And so he was doing that, and whenever he would pause, I would sort of interject with this like a quick staccato jazz chord. And it really bugged him, and eventually he would tell me to shut up. But I have that on cassette. What I really should have done was make an audio file of it, but that's probably as good as hearing an audio file. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Yeah, I don't even know what kind of guitar it was, but I do know what kind of guitar this is. This is a Quest Atak 10 that I acquired in 1997. Now, I thought this guitar was so cool. So I eventually made friends through my hockey team in St. John's, Newfoundland in 1997. However, none of my friends went to my school. I was in high school. I went to this one high school. They were in another school. So I literally knew nobody at my new high school, except for this one guy. He was in my homeroom. I don't even think he was in any of my classes, but he was in my homeroom. He was a really cool guy. His name was Danny Fudge. I've mentioned him before on a previous video, but he was a really cool guy. And we would hang out in homeroom, and I would also go to his house for lunch sometimes. He lived close to the high school. I didn't live near any of the high schools. For some reason, all the high schools in St. John's, they're like downtownish. And I lived on the east side. And there were no high schools over there for some reason. I don't know why. So I lived on the east side. He lived near the high school. So we didn't live near each other. So we didn't really hang out. We hung out a few times outside of school, but we mostly just hung out at school in homeroom. And then I went to his house a few times. And he was a guitar player as well. He was much better than I was back then. And if I remember correctly, he had like the body of a BC Rich. I think it was the Bitch. It was either a Bitch or a Mockingbird. It was probably the Mockingbird, but he had like the body of it. He didn't have a neck or anything else. But he also had another guitar. He had a whole bunch of gear. He also had this Quest Atak 10 that I thought was really cool. And he also had a Boss distortion pedal. And so I sucked ass at guitar back then. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And he was much better than me. So I was very self-conscious when I was around him. And I literally never played guitar in front of him. I told him I played guitar, but I literally never played in front of him. So I don't know. He probably thought I was a liar or something. But we eventually made this deal. So I told him what gear I had. And he knew that I liked this guitar. And so he offered to trade me his Quest Atak 10 for my Strat copy plus my amp. And he would also give me, he would give me his Quest Atak 10, and he would also give me his Boss distortion pedal, because I didn't have a distortion pedal either at the time. And so we made the exchange. And I think for my 1997 birthday, I received a PV combo amp. And so that was my new setup. And I absolutely love this guitar. By the way, Danny Fudge, he was also the guy who gave me my first Slayer album. So he was the one who introduced me to the band Slayer, which was really cool. I had already known of Cannibal Corpse by then, so but he was one who I think he introduced me to Slayer. It's kind of funny going straight from alternative to Cannibal Corpse, but I just happened to come across a Cannibal Corpse and a Deicide cassette tape just purely by chance. And so I was introduced to death metal before thrash metal. So I sort of went out of order, but I love the Quest Attack 10. Now this, I mean, it's kind of a shitty guitar. It's not a great guitar or anything, but I loved it because it was black. It was all black. It looked really cool. Now this image right here, it was so hard to find this image. This was the only image I could find of a Quest Attack 10, and it is extremely low resolution. Now, I think it was available on Facebook Marketplace or something. It was possible that I could have like logged into Facebook and got a better image, but I didn't want to do that. And plus the images on the screen here are very low res anyway. So, but I'm just debating. Yeah, I should probably put this in A because I really like this guitar. Even though if I played it now, it was probably horrible, but I have very fond memories of this guitar. So, yeah, I recorded on cassette tapes. This is what I mainly used for recording on cassette tapes while I was in Newfoundland. I did a lot of recording on the cassette tapes in Newfoundland. I also did it a lot of recording afterwards too when I moved away for a couple years until I started recording on the computer. So yeah, I do have a yeah, okay, so I do have a sound file that we can listen to the Quest Attack 10 in action. So this is the Quest Attack 10, and this is the Boss distortion pedal, and it's the distortion pedal plugged directly into my tape deck. So you can imagine the quality is quite bad, but let's listen to that right now.
All right, Irish song, take two.
Whistle. Here we go.
There's the whistle.
That was my whistle, by the way. The guy who's speaking right now, that's not me. This was me and him. This was my first band. It was me and him recording onto my cassette tapes. And he was in charge of the microphone. He did the vocals. And I also had, my sister had this little tiny Casio keyboard. I forget how many keys it was, but it was very, very few keys, very small keys. It was like a toy. But it had a lot of presets, it had a lot of sounds. It was actually really great. I used it to record on some of my later music because of how versatile it is. But he would be in charge of the keyboard and the microphone. And in order to get the keyboard onto the cassette, he had to like point the microphone at the keyboard because the keyboard had a like a speaker on it. So he had to, when he was doing vocals, he had to sort of hold the microphone and he had to hold the keyboard right next to it. So he was doing double duty there. So there's the Casio keyboard with the rhythm section. That riff is really bad. If you think of it, it's like a power chord on one fret and then it goes down to the next fret, and then those two higher notes are basically the octave of the second fret, and then it goes down again. So it's like 3, 2, 1. And I don't like those kind of riffs, but this was me when I was 14 years old. So I was a noob. But I like how the keyboard goes along with it. It's we have We recorded a bunch of songs. Unfortunately, I recorded over a bunch of them too when I was recording my riffs onto my cassette tapes. That's one of my biggest regrets. But I still do have our first rehearsal that we ever did. We did like 3 recording sessions, and I have our first one still on cassette, and I digitized it and everything. But I'm really sorry that I didn't keep the other ones, because we had a bunch of songs. We had probably over 10 songs. Okay, so that's the Quest Attack 10. Now, let's turn this music back on. So we're going back and forth between background music and actual music. Okay, so 1998. You can see this is a BC Rich Warlock. So I was playing this guitar, and so me and my friends, we would go to the mall occasionally. I think it was called the Avalon Mall in St. John's, Newfoundland. And we would go to the music store. We would check out the different CDs and stuff. And if we stayed late enough at the music store, like before they would close, you could ask the guy, hey, can you play a song from this album? And he'd do it. So we'd listen to like White Zombie or something like that, or Pantera or something. And then we would also go, so in the same like plaza as where the mall is, there was another pawn shop. Sort of, it wasn't connected to the mall, but it was in the same plaza. We'd also go over there. And every time we went there, this BC Rich Warlock was there, hanging up there on the wall. And I was obsessed with it. I thought it was so cool. I don't think I've seen a guitar that looked like this before. And so I was obsessed with it. I really, really wanted it. And eventually I did obtain it. And so it was in, I think it was in 1998. It was between 97 and 99, because I moved away in 99. But I got this, I acquired this, and this guitar, I absolutely love this guitar. Loved it. I started playing it. I eventually down-tuned to, I think the lowest I went was B flat. And then I eventually went up to C. So I used this guitar from 1998 until 2000. I think 2003 was the last year I recorded on it. But then I replaced it in 2006. So something happened to it. Now, I lived in St. John's, Newfoundland at the time, and I moved back to Sudbury, Ontario in 1999. And then I moved back to St. John's, Newfoundland in 2000, and then I moved back to Sudbury, Ontario again in 2000. So a lot of moving around. And then in 2005, I moved yet again to Milton, Ontario. And I think it was in 2004. Something happened to this guitar. I don't know if it was in 2004 or if it was in 2005, but something happened to the guitar. When I would plug it in and I would play, it didn't sound how it always sounded. It was like the pickup, it just sounded weak as hell. It just sounded horrible. And I remember taking it to the guitar store when I moved to Milton, and the guy, I was like, this guitar doesn't work. Do you know how to fix it? And he plugged it in and he played it. He said, well, it sounds okay. And I was like, well, it doesn't sound how it used to sound. And it's never sounded the same. So I lost it. I lost the essence of this guitar. Now, this guitar was falling apart. So I don't know if you can see on the image here. There's like there's something down here. That's a flap of duct tape. Now, the jack was sort of falling out because the screws were falling out of the wood. Because I guess the wood was rotting. And also the same with one of the, where your guitar strap hooks up. I forget what those are called, but that was coming out of the wood as well. The pickup was sort of falling down into itself because the screws were coming out. And so now this was a Warlock. It's a Platinum series. It says Platinum series on the neck here, the headstock, I should say. But I don't know what year it's from. It has it's a bolt-on neck, and on the plate or whatever, it does have a 4-digit serial number. But I mean, I've went online looking for serial numbers. BC Rich doesn't even recognize 4-digit serial numbers So I don't know what the hell this is, what year it's from. But I mean, I did love it. There was one time actually when I was, I wanted weed money. And so I brought this back to the pawn shop. I was going to pawn it. I was going to give it back and try to get some money for it to buy weed. And I would just use the Quest Attack 10. And I remember waiting in line, and there was a long lineup for people, pawning off their stuff. Finally got to the front of the line, and I put it on. This person's like way up on a desk, and there's a counter there. I put it up on the counter, and the person said they would give me like $100 or $150 for it, and I was like, "What? I literally bought it here a year ago for $550." So I couldn't comprehend what the hell was just happening. And they said, well, we have to sell it for like 4 times what we buy it for. And so I never ended up going through with it because of how much of a shitty deal it'd be. I thought I could get more than $150 for it. And I'm really glad that I didn't do it either, because I recorded some songs after that when I moved to Sudbury, Ontario in the early 2000s that I'm really proud of. And it wouldn't be the same without this guitar. Now, when I tuned this guitar down, I used these jazz strings. So they were these heavier gauge jazz strings, and the jazz strings were, I don't know what the word is. They were the flat wound. I think that's what they're called, flat wound. So they didn't make as much noise when you would move your fingers on them and stuff like that. And I was really happy with how this guitar sounded. Now, this guitar, I would really want to put it on S tier, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff wrong with it. It also had a floating bridge, which I hated. Always hate the floating bridge, though I did attach a whammy bar to it. This was the only guitar I ever used a whammy bar on. I used a whammy bar way back in the day, and that was cool, but I eventually tired of the floating bridge, and so what song am I going to play for that? So we're going to play a song from Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror. It's Shard 13. Now, where's that? Okay, I got to bring up the playlist. There's so many active windows here. Yeah, I really like that song. That might be my favorite song of that album. So that's back in the days when I used a drum machine. This was before. No, did I start playing drums then? No, I think I had just started playing drums, but I was a complete noob. And I definitely couldn't play along to that song. So I was doing this high-speed drum machine stuff. And I really liked the guitar tone there, and I was really happy with how that turned out. So nothing but fond memories about this guitar. So what do we have next? We have this acoustic guitar. So I got this as a gift in 1999. This is an Oscar Schmidt by Washburn, apparently. I had to check it when I took the picture. I had no idea what it was. So it's an acoustic guitar. It's got a pickup in it. Now the pickup is absolutely horrible. I remember plugging it into my amp several times, and there was way too much bass, and it just sounded horrible. But the acoustic guitar itself sounded amazing. I loved it. So I never played it with the pickup. Now the pickup, it did have a couple, it had a tone, not a knob, but a slider. Had a tone slider and some other slider. There were 2 sliders, but they didn't do anything. It was always shit. But yeah, this guitar, I love this guitar. So I started, I recorded a bunch of acoustic stuff actually. And I did enjoy playing this. Yeah, so I recorded my first like full album in 2001, and this guitar was featured on that album. Sort of in I don't think it was in every song, but it was featured on several songs. And I also eventually in 2003, I actually stopped playing electric guitar entirely. So I stopped playing my BC Rich, and then I switched to the Oscar Schmidt. I switched to the acoustic guitar. And so in 2001, I started writing Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror. And that album was supposed to have a whole lot of songs, many songs. And I started writing it. I don't even know how many songs I wrote by that time. So the first Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror demo had 18 tracks. And then there was another like demo that had 11 tracks or something, or 7 tracks, I forget. And then I went strictly to acoustic. And so I was writing the rest of that album on the acoustic guitar. Now, it wasn't going to be like some sort of folk music bullshit. It was still going to be metal, but I was writing it on the acoustic guitar. So the cool thing about the acoustic guitar is it sounds really good. So you can, I don't know how to say this properly, but it did affect my writing of the album. So I was able to use a little more melody and a little more dissonance, which I guess they're opposites of each other, right? But yeah, I had always planned on recording the songs I wrote on the acoustic. I was always planning on recording them with the electric guitar and drums. It was just I was writing them on the acoustic guitar. So if you should try that sometime. It's a really cool way of doing it. And so I used a lot of chords. I used a lot of like arpeggio stuff, and sort of using the strength of the acoustic guitar in the songs. And then I sort of transferred them to electric guitar, which ended up turning out really well as well. And so I ended up recording like a bunch of demo versions of the final songs from Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror. I mean, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I can do I should have done this earlier. I could do a comparison between the two. Should I do this? Okay, I'll just do it really quickly. So let's go to music. Let's go to, what do I want to compare? I want to compare a song from, okay, I have one in mind. Okay, so we'll go here. We're traversing my folder structure. So I want to go to the acoustic, yes. And I want to go to Forever With Me. Okay, so it's on the bottom here. So let's do another one. So you can't even see this because this is behind my camera there. Okay, let's do another one. And I want to go to Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror. And I believe, which one is it? What shard is it? Shard 34, right? Then, yeah, shard 34. So these are the same songs. Yeah, so the I forgot to mention that I tuned the acoustic down to like B flat, I believe is what it was, and then the album version, Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror version, that was tuned to C. So you may have noticed that the acoustic version sounded lower than the other one, but it is really cool. I mean, you can still play metal stuff. Like some of these songs I do tremolo picking on the acoustic guitar, and it sounds really heavy. If you use power chords too, you do a bunch of power chord changes. The acoustic guitar can sound very heavy if you strum the strings very hard. So I loved the acoustic guitar. Okay, so let's turn this back on. And this is going, this is going to go in A again because it had a very shitty pickup. So, I think I'm going to leave it in A. I'm surprised I put the Quest Attack. There's no way I'm putting the Quest Attack 10 in A. Yeah, so that's going to be, I should probably put this one on C. I'll leave it in B. I'll leave it in B. Okay, next one is the Quest Attack 10 again. So I already mentioned this. I moved to St. John's, Newfoundland, 97. I moved back to Sudbury, Ontario in 99. And then in 2000, I moved back to St. John's, Newfoundland. And I did not bring my guitar. So I had no guitar while I was there. Okay, I forgot to mention yet again. When I moved back to Sudbury, Ontario in 1999, I actually gave my friend my Quest Attack 10 as sort of a parting gift, I guess, because I had my BC Rich and I gave it to him. And so when I moved back there a year later, he lent me the guitar. So I was there for like 3 months or something, 3 or 4 months. And I wrote 3 songs while I was there with the Quest Attack 10. And actually, I remember this other time too. It just came to me. I was staying at my friend's house actually, and we had a bit of a, like, it wasn't really a party. It was more of a get together, but we were, drinking and smoking weed and stuff like that. And I remember I pretty sure it must have been his friend. So I was staying with my friend, and his brother must have had this. Yeah, he had a copy of Slayer, Rain and Blood. He had the version of it that misspelled necrophobic. That's the 3rd track. And it said necrophobic. So a double PH. And he had that. And so I remember playing along to that album, to Angel of Death, with the Quest Attack 10. He also lent me his amp too. He had a little small amp. And I remember doing this, and one of our friends I don't think he ever saw me play guitar before, and I was playing along to Angel of Death. He thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I used to play along to music back then, still, even though I didn't bring my guitar. So it was really nice having this again. So I should probably put this here again. And it was very useful because I also wrote 3 songs while I was there. Even though I was there for 3 months, I was still fairly productive. Okay, now we have this guitar. This is a guitar I borrowed. This was a Lyon, Lyon. It's like a Strat copy again. And I think it's by Washburn. This guitar was an absolute piece of crap, a piece of garbage. This was so horrible to play. Everything about it sucked ass. There was a lot of fret buzz, a lot of fret buzz. The frets were sharp. The frets were sharp. The string would sort of get caught on the fret, like the high E string would get caught on the fret because it protruded beyond the fretboard. And the pickup was absolute shit. It was horrible. However, with that being said, I'm not going to put it in D. Normally I would put it in D because I hated playing it. But I did use it to record. I record 1 song, and then I also used it to record, I think, 4 demo tracks of my Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror album. Because, so that's the problem. I had a contract with Blood Bucket Productions to release 2 albums in 3 years or something like that. Yeah, from 2000. I believe I signed the contract in 2003, and I was supposed to finish 2 albums by 2006. And so it was coming. I moved in 2005 to Milton, Ontario, and it was getting time to start recording Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror, but my BC Rich wasn't working properly, and so I was sort of in a bind here. And so I was getting ready to record, and I was doing some demo tracks, and I ended up borrowing this guitar, and I used that for recording the demo tracks. And then I ended up getting this guitar, but then I went back to this guitar for some reason to record one song. I think it's because I got out of the death metal genre slightly, and I got more into like math rock and stuff like that. And all that stuff is recorded in standard. So I started becoming interested in playing in standard tuning, like E standard. And that's what this guitar was tuned to. This one was tuned down to C. And so I used this to record. And so the reason I'm not putting this in D is because I actually like how the recordings turned out. Even though the pickup was shit, like my biggest beef with the pickup, like it had a lot of distortion, and it sounded very like distorted and staticky. I don't know if that's the proper term for it, but like when I would play these palm mutes, these supposedly heavy palm mutes that just sounded like garbage. There was absolutely no power behind the palm mutes. However, the song, the two songs that the demo songs I recorded, I don't think they even really had much palm mutes. And then the song I recorded after that in 2007, it didn't have any palm mutes either. And like, I really like how those songs turned out. So that's why I'm leaving it here. Now we are going to listen to the song I released after Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror was finished. So this was 2007. This was called Finkel Me This. Now it's a pretty stupid title. Finkel, I believe, is a reference to Ray Finkel from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And I believe Finkel Me This is basically a reference to Riddle Me This, which is the Riddler, right? Even though I don't like, I'm not a Batman fan. I don't like any of the superhero shit, but I guess that's the best title I could come up with, which is pretty bad. But I do like how this song sounds. So where are we on the list here? Finkel Me This. This is just the intro. So I'm gonna skip forward to my favorite part. Okay, so it's coming up. I really like this part. Yeah, and then it keeps going. But yeah, that riff, I really like that riff. And I really like how it sounds with that guitar. Oh. Now I was also using I went back to using Virtual Drummer, the drum machine. Even though I did, like I programmed the drums that I wrote drums to play along to that physically on my drum kit. And I programmed the drums exactly like that. And then I recorded a demo version, which is that song we just listened to, with the drum machine. And I was going to use that to play along to with my real drums. And then I just lost interest in the song. And I never ended up recording it with the actual drum kit. Unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know. I mean, the only good part of the song is that part I showed you, really. The middle section. Oh, I also like the intro. The intro was programmed in PowerTab, so I really like that as well. I used that MIDI actually as music for I think a couple of my Doom levels. So that's kind of interesting. All right, let's get this out of the way. I'm using a custom skin, by the way, on VLC Player. That's why it looks like this. Because it has the big ass numbers, or the big ass buttons, I should say. Is that why? No, it's because of this. It's got this big ass thing. Because I was doing a lot of scrolling in videos, and the default scroll bar in VLC is just so small. Same with the font. It's just so small. And this was the only skin I could find that had large font, large buttons, and all that. So that's sort of unrelated to the video. So let's go to the next one. So this is 2006 yet again. So I was getting ready to record Forever Trapped in the Broken Mirror. I made demo tracks using this guitar, the Lyon, and it was getting time to record the final version, and I had no guitar, no decent guitar. And so I ended up having to get a new guitar. And I ended up getting a Jackson. So this was a Jackson that was made in Japan. I don't know what model it is. It doesn't say what kind of model it is on the guitar. It has a reverse headstock. Now, I remember going to the music store. The guy asked me what I was interested in. I'm a complete noob when it comes to gear. So he probably thought I was a complete noob because I didn't know what the hell I'm looking for. I'm like, obviously something heavy. What does that mean? I don't know. And so I was playing some stuff. I remember I brought my my effects pedal, and I started playing with headphones. And then he said, "No, you should play with the amp, obviously." And then so I hooked it into the amp, and immediately there was just like feedback, tons of feedback. And I was like, "Hey, can you come over here? I don't know what I'm doing," because I don't fucking know anything about gear. By this time, I guess I had been playing for 11 years. But I was pretty good. I mean, I was recording. Oh, yeah. I mean, 2003, I was doing tech death. 2001, I guess it could be considered tech death-ish. But, I mean, I was pretty good. I was a complete noob when it came to gear. And so got that sorted out, and I started playing this Ibanez. He gave me this Ibanez. I believe it was it a black one? I don't remember, but I was really liking how it felt and how it sounded. And I was playing it for a while, and then he comes over with this Jackson here. And I was like, oh, cool. And I started playing that. The Ibanez was a fixed bridge. This one has another floating bridge, which is really stupid. I wish I would have got the the fixed bridge one, but I was very happy with how this Jackson turned out. I ended up liking the sound of this one better, I think, at least at the time. And I thought it was black. In the store, I thought it was a black guitar. And then I ended up bringing it home, and then I don't even know how long later, but it was sort of like shining in the sunlight. And I realized, oh my God, this is a really, really, really dark green guitar. I don't even know if you could tell, but it's extremely dark green. And I had a bright light shining on it. And that made it even better because dark green is my favorite color. And so it ended up just working out for the best. But yeah, and it had EMG pickups in it, active EMG pickups. And those gave me problems a few times when I forgot to change the battery and it wasn't sounding right. And I'm like, why doesn't it sound good? You got to change the battery, you fucking idiot. But yeah, I love this guitar. Love this guitar. So did it have any problems? That's the question. Did it have problems? I don't want to put it in S because it had the floating bridge. I eventually did block it off, but it's so annoying having a floating bridge when you don't use it. It was annoying to change strings on it. I don't like how to change strings with the floating bridge. I don't like that. Not just the tuning, but having to snip the string off and put it in and use the fucking Allen key. No, I'm not putting it in S tier. No, purely based on that. But I love the sound. It served me for a long ass time. You can see 2006. My next guitar I bought was 2022. This was a classical guitar. So I used this on so many albums. I guess I should have done this before. But 2006, this is my Bandcamp page. So this guitar, my first guitar, it does not appear on any albums. My Quest Attack 10 appears on this album, 97 to 2000. And what's the next guitar? The next guitar is my BC Rich Warlock. So the BC Rich Warlock appears on Ancient Tales from the Forest of Death, The Last Breath of the Dying, Begless, Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror, Impaled by Great Erection, Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror 2003, Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror Extras. Yes. And then that's it. That's the ending of the BC Rich Warlock. And this guitar right here, the Oscar Schmidt, is featured on Acoustic Despair. It is also featured on, where is it featured on? The Last Breath of the Dying. Yeah, so it's just those two. I do not think it appears on here. So it appears on 2 albums, so that's pretty good. But my 2006 Jackson, my dark green Jackson, appears on... where is it? Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror 2006. The Lion appears on Finkel Me This. So the Jackson is featured on this. Lemonade Breath, Handsome Bank Teller, Black Prog, Cora, Play-Doh, It's a Trap, Moments in Time, Flies, Bad Ending, End of the World, A Panda, Escaping the Spiral Labyrinth. I don't think there's guitar on this one. No, there isn't. No, drums and keyboards. The Restaurant, The Dying's Last Breath, Inside the Cell, The Future of Asexual Logic. This has no guitar either. Tragic Immoral Illusions, Vague Evolving Patterns. This has no guitar either. Repressed Memory Games, Shapeshifter's Realm, Self-Inflicted Memory Loss, Spatial Lacerations, Unveiled Webbing, Sanity's Unnecessary Elaborations, Perverse Teleportation, Choice Trinkets, Spontaneous Synaptic Mutations Part 1, Luring Oneself into the Throes of Make-Believe, Mistaken Lobotomy, Seeping Orifice, and Non-Conscious Paradox. So all of those albums feature the Jackson. So that was my guitar for a long ass time. So it definitely served its purpose. But it got to the point where I was getting sick of the fucking floating bridge and changing the strings. It was really annoying. And okay, and something else happened. Yeah. I was going to change the strings, and so the strings go through the saddle or some shit, and then you have to you have to tighten the Allen key to push a little weight against the strings that sort of clamps it. And so I was changing the strings one day. This was in 2000, a couple years ago, and then I ended up moving my guitar, flipping it over for some reason, and the clamps fell out. They're just these cube pieces of metal that fit into the saddle and then clamps against the strings. But I think after that many years, they sort of developed their own shape. And so I didn't know, a bunch of them fell out onto the ground. And so I picked them up and I put them back in their place. And then they wouldn't clamp the strings anymore. I couldn't clamp down on the high E string anymore. And so by that time I was wanting to get a new guitar anyway. And so that's what spurred me to get a new guitar. I had my phone on for some reason. However, let's play a song from that. What am I playing? Oh yeah. So based on all the albums that I just rattled off here, I had to figure out one song that I wanted to play. And I decided on this one. A song from, what is it? Self-Inflicted Memory Loss. This one right here. I love this album so much. It is a free jazz album. It's like a free jazz tech death album. And we're going to listen to the song called Knives, Spoons.
Knives, spoons.
There you go. There are 99 of those on that album. I love that album so much. Oh my God. I've listened to it so many times that I think that I've semi-memorized each song. Semi-memorized. Because, I mean, how could you even memorize that? It's just complete random nonsense. But very, very fun. So that's sample, by the way.
Knives, spoons.
It's from some TV show. That one, I can't remember where it's from. I recorded like an hour or two of TV. I was flipping through the channels. I recorded the audio. And then after the fact, I clipped them all up into samples. And I used a sample before each track. Knives, spoons.
Knives, spoons.
It was probably, I don't know. It might be from an infomercial, because I did record a couple infomercials. It might be from some sort of cooking appliance or something like that, kitchen appliance. But yeah, that's a very good album. You should listen to it. If you hate music, you should definitely listen to Self-Inflicted Memory Loss. All right, so let's go back to here. Let's turn this on. Okay. So, a lot of years go by. Okay, so we have 2007. So this was another gift. So this was probably a sign. Gifts from my parents. That maybe I should play acoustic / classical guitar as opposed to electric guitar. So this is a La Patrie by Godin, I believe. Now this was apparently made in Quebec, hence La Patrie. It's a classical guitar. It's a nylon strings. This guitar is really good. It's amazing actually. It's a really good guitar. I loved it. I did play it. Yeah, I played classical guitar in high school. Actually, we had in my high school, there was a classical guitar class. There were actually two. There was a first year and a second year. And so the school, they had guitars, so you didn't have to bring your own guitar. And the class wasn't for guitar players either. It was just for anyone who wanted to learn guitar. It was considered to be like an easy course. And so that's partly why I took it. Also because I've already played guitar. So it was basically an easy credit. And some of the guitars that they had at the school were just absolute pieces of shit. Like the literal frets were falling off, and some of them were really bad. Some of them were really good. And I think the one I ended up getting was one of the bad ones. But it was fun. I obviously had a leg up on people because I'd already played guitar before. Now I took the first class, the first course. So the first year of the course, it wasn't 2 years, but you could take like the first one, and then and then you could take if you've taken the first one, then the next year you can take the second one, and it's like more advanced or something. But the first one, the teacher didn't let you use a pick. You had to do finger style. And so the whole point of that course was, so you were working yourself up to the final exam. And the final exam was Stairway to Heaven by, who plays that? It's not Led Zeppelin, is it? I know that's like, this shows how newbie I am. Stairway to Heaven's a good song, but what was I saying? Yeah, so you're working your way up to this Stairway to Heaven, playing Stairway to Heaven for the final exam. And this class contains people who have literally never played guitar before. And Stairway to Heaven is a pretty complicated song. And so I don't think the teacher really expected you to be able to play the whole thing. It was just, do your best. But I played the whole thing. I'm pretty sure some other people may have played the whole thing as well. I know my friends had both played guitar. One of them was mainly a drummer, but he had played guitar. And then my other friend, he played guitar as well. He mainly played bass, but he played guitar too. I played the whole song. I'm pretty sure I got a good grade in the class. I mean, I skipped a bunch of school, and you shouldn't do that, kids. But I ended up getting a good grade because I could play. And I was also, I had already been familiar with finger picking. And so, yeah, it was a fun class. And then the year later, the teacher didn't care if you used a pick or not. And so I just used the pick. And the final exam for that, so that course, I believe it contained more theory and like book work and stuff like that, which I did not care for at all. All I wanted to do was play guitar. And so that teacher did not like me because I did skip a bunch of school, and I didn't like doing the work in class. But then we got to the final exam, and so for the final exam for that year, you had to pick something by a band, and you had to play that, and then you also had to write something yourself. So this was much more advanced than the previous year, and I did that. I put together a medley of riffs by the band Impaled from their The Dead Shall Dead Remain album, and I tabbed it all out, and I created a tab for myself, and I practiced it. And I did that for my first part of my exam. And I remember the teacher asked me, he thought it was cool, and he was like, "Who is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's Impaled." And he just gave me a look, like a strange look, like, okay. And then I played one of my own songs. I played a song from The Last Breath of the Dying that I released in 2000, or that I finished in 2001. I recorded in 2001. I forget what year this was. It was either 2000 or 2001 where I did the exam. Where is it? It's right here. Yeah. And he ended up, it's actually, I'm like doing some like death metal on guitar, and some of it gets pretty tricky. And I played it on this classical guitar, and he ended up stopping me like halfway through, and he's like, "Okay, I gotta get through, all these other exams." And so he stopped me, and he like sent me back in class, and I ended up getting a really good grade, obviously, because I was really good at guitar by then. But it was kind of funny because he didn't like me for the whole year, and then I come in and I do this really good exam. He was probably annoyed by that. Anyway, that doesn't describe this guitar at all. This guitar, I did play it occasionally. I didn't play it a whole lot. I still have it, and it's got a nice hard case to it as well. So some of these guitars, like the BC Rich, the acoustic here, they are there's a nice layer of dust on them. But this one is in sparkly condition. It's almost like it's never been used. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever changed the strings on it before. I did record with this in one song. I recorded it with it. As far as where it should go, it should definitely go here. I think it's 100% an A tier guitar. Yeah, 100% an A tier. And so the song I recorded was a song called, what is it called? It is called, oh yeah, the classic Fountain Pen. This is from 2008. And so I wrote the song on this guitar, on the La Patrie. I wrote it, okay, I'm going to talk about that. I wrote it on this guitar, and I ended up recording on it. I was actually planning on using my electric to record on it, my Jackson, but I ended up just using this guitar anyway. And it's like a death metal song, but it's actually like unplugged death metal. And I decided to also play the drums without my snare wires on. So it's truly unplugged. Now, fair warning, the recording quality of this is pretty bad, but we'll listen to the classic Fountain Pen.
Imagine doing this with your best fountain pen. Then doing this.
By the way, those samples are from an infomercial, a late night infomercial that would come on TV when I was watching this late night no limit Hold'em, Texas Hold'em, no limit, no limit Texas Hold'em poker. They would have those poker shows at late night, and I love poker, and so I would watch those. And this infomercial about this fancy pen would come on TV late at night, and it just always made me laugh. And so I ended up recording the audio for that infomercial, and I cut it up and I used it as samples for this song.
This is the classic fountain pen.
Yeah, so there's the classic fountain pen. That's a classic song in the I was still known as Time of Death at that point. So yeah, so that's definitely an A tier guitar. I believe I used 2 guitar tracks for that song. Yeah, one on the left, one on the right. And I think I did a couple harmonies. Okay, so now fast forward 15, is it 15 years? Yeah, fast forward 15 years. I don't know, I don't remember what sort of influenced me to start buying new guitars again. I guess I probably saw some YouTube videos of like these cheap ass guitars that sounded good and they looked good and they were getting good reviews. And I thought to myself, okay, let's try this. And so the first new guitar I bought in 15 years was this. It's a Jackson Dinky. It's a 7-string. So that's my first 7-string guitar. Yeah, none of these guitars are 7-string. So this guitar is 7-string Jackson, and it was $260, I believe, Canadian. You might even, it's like the cheapest 7-string you could buy, I feel like. And I think you may even be able to get it under 200 in the US. Let's turn the music back on, by the way. But so I had a bunch of songs from not the Last Breath of Dying, the Forever Trapped in a Broken Mirror recording sessions, not the recording sessions, but the writing sessions. I had a bunch of songs that I'd never recorded because that album was supposed to have a whole bunch of songs, and then I ended up like filling up the time for the album, and I had a bunch of other songs that I never ended up recording, and I still haven't recorded. And I compiled them all into a folder. Some of them weren't even like full songs, they were just riffs, and eventually I wanted to sort of flesh out all those songs and release an album of the really old stuff. But back then I used a really low tuning, and I didn't want to have to retune my Jackson. So I wanted to get like a 7-string guitar so that it was already tuned down that low. And I thought, this guitar is so cheap, it seems to have good reviews, so let's just try it out. And so I bought that. I've only played it for 10 minutes. I haven't actually recorded that album yet, or even practiced it or done anything with it, but I do have this guitar. I played it only for 10 minutes, but honestly, I was really impressed with this guitar. It felt really good. It played good. It sounded good. I think it looks amazing. It's one of these Chinese guitars, and I have nothing bad to say about this, and I am looking forward to using it eventually, but considering I've only used it for 10 minutes, I don't know where to put it. Honestly, I think I'm going to put it in A, because what I did use it, the short amount of time I did use it, it was really good, and I am looking forward to using it. Now, you can see I bought 3 guitars in 2022, and so I had such a good experience with this one, and so I'm like, oh, okay. And then that's when I was going to restring the Jackson, and the clamp things fell out, and now it didn't clamp onto the high E string. So I thought, okay, maybe I can replace this old Jackson with a new cheap Jackson. And so I was looking, and I wanted to get one. Yeah, I wanted to get a Jackson that had a fixed bridge. And so I was looking at various Jacksons. This was the only one that had the fixed bridge, the natural finish, the natty finish. This is a Jackson. What is it called? Warrior. Jackson Warrior looks very nice. And this wasn't the cheapest. I don't think, was it the cheapest version of the Warrior? I'm not, to be honest, I don't remember. This was like $400 or something. It was $419. And I really like this guitar. Very much enjoy it. There's one thing I didn't like about it. Well, I guess two things. You may notice that, so it has dual humbucker pickups, and so like they're black and white. I don't like the white. Why is it like two different colors? I don't understand that. I think the white looks stupid. So I would change that. But also the body color, when I received it, it looks slightly orange. And I remember unboxing it, I was like, what the hell? This sort of looks orange as opposed to wood. And so that's my only complaint, really. Now, I'd like to like paint this black or something. I've looked at YouTube videos on how to paint guitars, and it looks pretty complicated, to be honest. You have to like take it apart and yeah. But yeah, I really don't like the finish on it. I mean, the finish itself is really nice. It's the guitar itself is pretty light as well. Oh, another thing that I did not like about this guitar at all. Same with this guitar. The tuners were horrible. It's like I couldn't tune it exactly how I wanted, because I had been using, since the BC Rich and in this Jackson, I had been using the fine tuners on the floating bridge that entire time since 1998. And so I was used to that level of tuning accuracy. And then I go to using the tuners on the headstock from like the super cheap Chinese Jacksons. I don't know what the gear ratio is, but it's like, it's not very good at all. And just, I couldn't get it perfect. And so I ended up, this one, I ended up changing the default tuners with these Graphtec ratio locking tuners, which are amazing, by the way. So you have a more of a fine tuning to it. And now this guitar is really good. And so I used this guitar on, which albums did I use that on? So this, yeah. Okay. So I used it for, Violations, Cries from a Defective Mind, Cohesive Deterioration, and Permanent Psychosis. These are all free jazz albums. What I call Octopus Core, not what I call, but someone else referred to this style of music as that. And then I've sort of adopted that. So that's what OC stands for. So I did 4 of those type of albums with the Natty Jackson Warrior. And I also wrote, and because they're all improvised, and I also wrote and recorded Implanted Perceptions with that guitar as well. So basically everything here is with that guitar. And so what are we going to listen to using the Natty Jackson? We are listening to Octopus Core March. So I believe that is Cries from a Defective Mind. So that's my latest album. Okay, so let's turn this off.
Imagine doing this with your best fountain pen.
I love these Octopus Core albums so much. Oh my God, I'm so proud of these albums. You have no idea. Oh my God. If I've done anything decent with music, it's probably those albums. It's kind of funny because I don't even think you can even tell what the guitar is even doing. So there's 2 guitar tracks, and there's also a keyboard track. And on both guitars and on the keyboard, I have a delay pedal. There's also a delay pedal on the vocals. And so it's very noisy. And sometimes it's hard to even tell what the guitar is doing unless you mute the guitar and then you realize what's not in the mix anymore. So, but it's more for atmosphere than actual like riffs and stuff. And that's my favorite type of drumming that I do as well. I'm just basically just doing random shit the entire time for 31 minutes. That's probably why my wrists don't work anymore. But yeah, so there were some problems with this guitar. I don't like the finish and the pickups. I would change the pickups as well. But it's a really good guitar, so I'm going to put it in A, obviously. I don't think I can put it in S. And also those Graphtec locking tuners are amazing. Definitely recommend those. Okay, and so this was a big success as well. However, like I mentioned with the tuners, I had a big problem with the tuners, with the default tuners. So I didn't replace the defaults with the Graphtec for a little while. I ended up buying this guitar before I put the Graphtecs in. Now, this is the same style. It's a Warrior, but this one has a floating bridge. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll just get another floating bridge and I'll block it off either with a piece of wood or I would buy some sort of device. So apparently you can get these devices that you can hook up onto your guitar and it will stop the floating bridge from moving. So it basically treat it like a fixed bridge, which is what I wanted. And I only wanted it because I wanted the floating bridge because they have the fine tuners. That's what I wanted, the fine tuners. And so I get this Ferrari red Jackson Warrior, and I thought this was so cool. This was, I forget how much this was. I think it was a little more expensive than this one. I don't think it was. It must. I don't remember. None of the guitars I've ever bought have been over $1,000 though. No. But this one has a maple neck or a maple fretboard or whatever. And I kept seeing this on the Long and McQuaid web store. I kept searching for guitars and I kept seeing it. I thought it was so cool. I was like, ooh, shiny red. I got to get this because I'm a moron. And so I ended up getting this. And I ended up also getting this device that would, I think it was called a tremolo is what it was called. So you basically flip your guitar over and you would screw it into the body and you sort of push up against the floating bridge so that it would stop the floating bridge from moving. And I did that, but it didn't line up properly. So it wasn't pushing against the floating bridge. It was only pushing against like a little tiny part of it. And so that idea went out of the way. And I also couldn't put a piece of wood in it because of the way the cavity was cut out from the guitar. It wasn't smooth. There were like different sections and I couldn't slip a piece of wood inside. So I played this guitar for 10 minutes as well. It felt like basically the same as this one felt, and it sounded slightly different. I don't know if it was, it's got all the same specs, most of the, at least electronically, but I liked how it sounded. I liked how it felt. It's just, I didn't have another way to, and I got tired of the whole floating bridge thing. And I think that's when I figured out about the Graphtec tuners. And so then I went back to the headstock tuners, the machine heads. But this one did feel good. So I'd probably put this in A as well. Where should I put it? Should I put it right here? I'll put it over here because I've literally only played it for 10 minutes. This one I played for much longer. But is this one better than this one? I don't think so. It is in the sense that it has a fixed bridge. That's a good question. No, this one has to go first because I use this on so many albums. Okay. So, yeah, I'm probably going to sell this. I'd like to sell this if possible. And I might even have to sell this as well because I've replaced it. Okay, we have 2 guitars left. 2023, which was last year. So I started developing some neck pain and some back pain, shoulder pain when I was playing guitar, standing up, because these guitars ended up being too heavy or something, having problems with my body. And I also had problems with my wrist. I couldn't sit down and play guitar anymore because I get these pains in my wrist. And also when I would try and do stretches on like between frets, I would hurt my fingers and I would hurt my wrist. And so I was on the lookout for a light guitar, and the lightest guitar I could find was this Traveler guitar. I think the original Traveler guitar is literally under 4 pounds. This is called a speedster, like a speedster standard, I think. This little armrest thing, you can detach it. But this is extremely light. It's also headless. I had a fascination with headless guitars for a while, and I wanted to get a headless guitar, and so this fit with being headless and also being very light. And so I bought this to try and fix the problems I've been having with my body. And so I got it. I played it. It's a very nicely made guitar. It felt really good. The frets felt good, like the neck felt good. These things right here, these are the tuners. So they're like inside the body. So the strings wrap around these rollers on the back here, and then they roll on the back, under the guitar, I should say, into the tuners right here. And so what I was going to do is I was going to replace these tuners with the Graftex. But I started playing this. This is another one I played for 10 minutes. And there was just like a balance issue because there was no headstock. I had a tough time playing death metal, like on the low strings and making my fingerings accurate. I was like missing a couple notes, and it was because there was no headstock. And so I sort of had to abandon that idea too. I still had that guitar, played it for 10 minutes. It is a really good guitar. Honestly, because of how light it is, it also came with a case, and it's small as well. I don't know if it has 24 frets. It might only have 22. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a regular size scale, regular scale size. But you take off this armrest, and then it fits in a small bag. It would be great for traveling with, for literally traveling with. So if I ever take it anywhere, that's what I would use it for. Otherwise, I don't think I would use it because I couldn't get used to it being headless, even though I really like the headless idea. I know some people can't get around the whole headless thing because of how it looks. It might look stupid. I don't mind the look, but I couldn't get around the balance, the misbalance issue. And so that brings me to my final guitar that I've ever bought so far. It is this Jackson Randy Rhoads V. So this is a Minion, the Jackson Minion. And so what that is, this is a short scale guitar. So a regular scale guitar, I believe, is 25.5 inches. And I think the scale is determined from what is this called? Is this the nut? From the nut, I think. Like, I don't even know what the parts of the guitar are called. And I've been playing guitar for 29 years. And I think it goes from there to the bridge, right? That's how you measure a scale. And this one is 22.5. So it's 3 inches smaller than your regular scale guitar. And so what that means is there is less distance between each fret. And so that, I was really interested in that. Because I was having problems doing, not bends. I always want to say bends, doing stretches from fret to fret. And so that would decrease the distance that I had to stretch. So I was really interested in that. And it still had 24 frets, which was really nice. I mean, I don't do any shredding. I don't basically do any solos at all, but I do go up occasionally onto the higher frets. And also if I'm doing like free jazz stuff, I'm all over the fretboard. So it's nice to have the 24 frets. And there was something else too. Yeah, the V. This is my first flying V-shaped guitar. I was always against them. I always thought they looked cool, but I was always against them because you can't sit down and play them. I know you can technically do that and stick your leg in between the V, but then you have to sort of like sort of squish your legs together to hold it. And so I was always against getting a V. But now I can't even sit down and play guitar anymore, so I always have to stand up, and so it doesn't matter if I can sit down. And so I was like, oh, okay, let's get the V. And it's also a minion, so it has a shorter scale, so that's really cool. And so I decided to, yeah, this is a Jackson Minion. This guitar was $260, $260 or $270. I think it was $270. It's a very cheap guitar though. And considering I had good experiences with the other cheap Chinese Jacksons, I thought, okay, let's do this. This, by the way, this red one, no, I remember how much this was. This was the most expensive guitar I ever bought. Yeah, it was still under $1,000 though. So I don't even think I've ever played a guitar that's worth over $1,000. So maybe that's why I have no S tiers. Maybe that's why. Oh, what the fuck just happened? Okay. So what was I saying? Yeah, with this, so I kept seeing this on the Long and McQuaid store again, just like the red one. So it also had a black version, but this white one, I kept seeing it. I was like, this is a really cool looking guitar. For some reason, I was drawn to the white, even though obviously black looks great. By the way, this lion was black; it wasn't blue. This was the only picture I could find that looked similar to how it looked. So. My mistake. This was a black, but yeah, this white one, I kept seeing it. I was like, man, I really want that white guitar, even though it's white. I remember seeing a picture of Taylor Swift playing I think it was a Gibson Flying V. Now the Gibsons, they have like rounded edges. They look horrible, but the Jacksons have nice sharp points. But I saw this white guitar and I was drawn to it. So I eventually bought it, and yeah, I love this guitar so much, but it does have its problems. So when I received it, it had the same tuner problems because all these Chinese Jacksons, they have the shit tuners. And then what else was it? Yeah, I feel like it didn't sound the same as this Jackson, as my regular scale Jackson, for whatever reason. I don't know why. I'm assuming they have the same pickups, but because this has a shorter scale, apparently that affects the tone of it as well. And then what else? There was something else. Oh, the frets. Yeah. So I was playing this. I was playing the guitar, and as I was going up and down the fretboard, the bottom of the frets were like protruding out from the fretboard, and they were sort of cutting up my fingers. Not to the point of bleeding, but they were noticeably cutting up the skin on my fingers. And so I ended up buying a fret file, and I filed down the frets, and that worked out good. So I did have to do that. Oh yeah, it also has some fret buzz. It has fret buzz on I think the first fret, and also when it's open. I tried raising the saddles on the bridge, but I ended up having to go like way too high, so that if it was good on the low frets, it was just way too high on the high frets. And I also didn't try doing a truss rod adjustment because I've never done that before, and I don't want to screw up my guitar. So eventually I'm going to bring this into an actual guitar store and have them set it up properly. But yeah, I'm just obsessed with this guitar. It is extremely, because of the shorter scale, it's also lighter. And so I got this because it's really light, the Traveler guitar, but this is light as well. And I can play this for half an hour, no problem, standing up. And also the shorter scale length makes a noticeable difference when you're stretching from fret to fret. And so I don't have any more finger pain anymore either. So this is amazing. Now, so right here, I changed the pickups. So this came with a dual humbucker pickups, the regular Jackson ones. And I ended up getting an EMG, I think it was an EMG 81, whatever the most popular EMG pickup is, or the most common, I should say. Now I wanted to get a new pickup, but when you replace pickups, you need to know how to solder. You need to know where everything goes, and I've never soldered either. So I wanted to I needed something easy, something basic that a noob like me could do. And I was doing some searching, and I figured out that EMG has these solderless pickups. And so all you have to do is clip stuff in. They have these adapter things on the ends of the wires, and you just clip them in. And I thought that was amazing. And so I installed the pickup myself. And so I gutted the electronics area. I stuck the pickup in. So the one thing about this guitar, the jack is all the way up here. It's up here. It's not down here. And so that requires like an extra long cable from the pickup to the jack. And so when you get your EMG pickup, it just has the regular size cable. So you would have to special order the jack, the extra long EMG cable that would fit your Jackson Flying V. The same thing happens with the Warrior. The jack is up here again. And so I didn't want to wait. So I ended up just drilling a hole in the bottom right here. And I bought some sort of jack plate on Amazon, screwed it in. And so the EMG is an active pickup, so it comes with a battery. The Jackson pickups, the original Jacksons, were passive, so they didn't have a battery. So I ended up taking off, and I only use the bridge pickup. I never use the neck pickup. I don't play solos like I mentioned before, so this is just a cavity right here, and it just happened to be painted black for some reason. So there's just an empty hole there, and so what I took out the pickup switcher. I just completely removed it so that there would be enough room for the battery in the electronics cabinet, in compartment. And so I did that. I really like how it sounds, but the only thing is, I haven't recorded with this guitar yet. I've recorded one thing, and it was a video, and I only recorded with my phone. So I haven't officially recorded with this yet. So I don't know how it sounds. Just going by my ear, I feel like I want to try a different EMG pickup. So they have a bunch of different kinds. I feel like I want to get something that has a little more low end, because, I think I forgot to mention this. I had downtuned for years, and then in 2006 I went up to standard, or 2007 I went to standard, and I've been using standard tuning ever since. And so I played death metal, played tech death in standard tuning. And so I feel like, there's no bass in my recordings either. I don't record bass. So I feel like I need something that is a little more low end. So I think I want to try a different EMG pickup. But I did record that live video. It's in my YouTube. I recorded a live playthrough of this album, Implanted Perceptions. So we're going to watch that. Well, we're going to watch the first song. And I obviously have to enable the video. Here we go. Okay. So I played the entire album on this guitar. I was using this guitar to practice on. So I had already released the album. I'd already released the album, and then I was using the White Jackson to practice the album, and I was going to for that playthrough video. And I just made a practice video with my phone, and that's why the sound quality was so bad, because I just used the phone microphone. Eventually, I was going to, hook up an actual microphone, and I was going to make it sound better. So that was just a practice, just to like frame it and everything, just to see if it worked. Because I'd never used the 1080p 60 frames per second feature on my phone, so I was trying that out. And then I had to stop playing guitar. I haven't played guitar in 6 months now, and so I ended up just releasing the video as is. But this is going to be another A tier guitar. So I am obsessed with this guitar. Now, it has the possibility to get into S tier. I also put the Graphtec tuners on this guitar as well. I'm just wondering if I should put this... I'm going to put this in S right now. A tentative S, even though I haven't recorded with it on an actual album. I'm hoping it sounds okay. I mean, it does sound okay, but I'm hoping it sounds really good. I do want to try another pickup in it. And also... I mentioned I want to bring this to a guitar place, to a guitar store, so that they can fix the fret buzz and something else. I can't remember. Oh, no, nothing else, actually. I had an idea, actually. The one thing I don't like about this guitar is the maple neck. And because the maple neck is like a light brown color, I think it would look much better with a darker colored neck fretboard. And so they have a black version of this guitar, but it has an amaranth, I don't know how to pronounce that, an amaranth fretboard, which is this one right here. This is the amaranth fretboard, just like with my Natty Warrior. And so I think it would look much better. This guitar would look much better with this neck. And so they have a black version of this guitar, black body, and the amaranth neck. And what I want to do is I want to buy the black guitar, and then I want to switch the necks. Because the black guitar is it's even cheaper than this one. It's $250. And I'm assuming all the specs are exactly the same. The only difference is that this is maple and the other one's amaranth. But everything else is exactly the same. It's a bolt-on, so all you would have to do is remove the bolts, I'm assuming. I haven't done that, but when I bring this to if I can ever play guitar again, I'm going to get the black one. And then I'm going to bring both of these guitars to a guitar store, and then I will ask them to switch necks. Oh, I guess I'll have to put the tuners on the black one as well. Yeah. Okay, I'll probably have to ask them to do that as well. By the way, another note here, with the Graphtec tuners, they come with these templates, like these plates that you put, so you don't have to. It's really nice actually. So you don't have to drill any holes in your neck. They have these templates for various popular style machine heads, and so there's a set of Jackson ones. I guess they're Goto. That's the kind of tuners they use. And so you put the plate against the headstock, and then you stick and then it matches up with the holes in that are already in your guitar. And so when I went to put the templates on, because this is a short scale guitar, the headstock was also smaller, and so the distance between each tuner was too small. So I couldn't put the plates on because they were too crowded together, and they were pushing each other away. So what I had to do, I think they're made of aluminum, the templates. So I had to file them down to make them smaller. And so yeah, I'll probably just use the same tuners. put them in the amaranth headstock, the amaranth fretboard headstock, and then put this on here, and I think that would look amazing. And if I also put in a better pickup in there, this is just going to be a complete S tier guitar, because it's a perfect weight. It's very light. It has a perfect balance. It's got the shorter distance between frets, and hopefully it'll sound good as well. So that is my future. That is my goal for the future. Hopefully 2025. Anyway, this was probably a very long video. 141, of course. But those are all the guitars I've ever owned. And I sort of went on a buying spree, as you could see, over the last couple years. But there was a reason for that. Anyway, I guess I'll stop the video here. So until next time.